It's not convicted felon. It's justice-involved person. It's not criminal. It's law rebel. Hello everyone, this is Mr. Obvious, bringing you the obvious, and today on FoxNews.com, we must be living in Looneyville because now we can't even call convicted felons felons anymore. Now we have to call them justice-involved. Ha ha! He's not a domestic abuser, he's a wife marinator. Oh lord, okay. San Francisco board rebrands convicted felon as justice-involved person, sanitizes other crime lingo. Now I'm aware that some people have mentioned this subject, but it's very important to talk about because changing language is exactly what cultural Marxists do. That's what they do to change language. The left has adopted many of the cultural Marxist techniques. As we all know, the left is subverted, but more importantly, if you control language, you control thought. It's that simple. That was the entire idea between Orwell's 1984. Newspeak, if you can control what words and language people use, you can control everything. So instead of calling convicted felons, they now want to call them justice-involved person. Because that sounds better. It's the same logic they use when they say undocumented citizen, rather than the correct term, illegal alien. But before we look at the story, monetization on this channel has been completely demonetized. That is why you can support me on Patreon or Subscribestar, and there's also PayPal or Bitcoin options. Sharing the video also helps as websites are no longer promoting red-pilled content. And be sure to check out my sponsor, Listening Post to Air. Links are in the description. They're currently raising funds to purchase land and houses to take care of our veterans. Links below in the description. So let's check this story out. This story is by Lucas Michaelonis. Don't know if I said that right. Here we go. Crime-ridden San Francisco has introduced new sanitized language for criminals, getting rid of words such as offender and addict, while changing convicted felon to justice-involved person. The Board of Supervisors adopted the changes last month, even as the city reels from one of the highest crime rates in the country and staggering inequality exemplified by persuasive homelessness alongside Silicon Valley wealth. Isn't it funny how everywhere run by Democrats becomes full of homeless people? It's almost like there's a correlation. But you know what they say, correlation doesn't mean causation, even if it happens 20 million times. The local officials say the new language will help change people's views about those who commit crimes. Do we really want to change people's views about crime? Do we really want people to see felons as less than felons? They are. Now, I will admit, the legal system in the United States is absolutely full of shit. We have too many laws for too many stupid things. The drug war should be canceled. Scheduling should be canceled. People should be able to do with their bodies what they want. And a lot of times, they ban stuff that actually works so that the big pharma can protect their profits. That's all it's about, folks. Money, money, money. And there's so many petty laws for so many petty things. It's ridiculous. We just have way too many laws. Way too many. One law that's really stupid, for example, is jaywalking. Sometimes there are no crosswalks. Are people just supposed to walk 10 miles until the first crosswalk so they can get to the other side and then walk 10 miles back? That's stupid.
Welcome back. A new Fox News report details the growing contrast in San Francisco between big business and homelessness. But can one really be blamed for the other? Some city officials say that technology companies like Twitter are causing housing prices to soar, forcing those who can't afford it out on the street, while others...
Isn't that amazing? The rich Silicon Valley big tech companies, the same people who are censoring us, suppressing us and trying to hide the truth, the same people who want to meddle in elections, companies like Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Isn't it funny how they move into these areas like San Francisco, make all the property costs rise astronomically, and put everyone out of home? No one can afford to live in these cities. No one can afford it. So they turn into cesspools. Furthermore, a lot of these cities are controlled by the left and controlled by Democrats, and ultimately, their higher taxes and stupid social welfare programs eventually cripple the economy and take away everybody's money. That's just how it goes. Yet you still have morons fleeing places like San Francisco, fleeing states like California, moving to red states which have low taxes, and voting Democrat because they're so stupid they don't understand that it was their policies and their stupid ideology that destroyed their state in the first place, that destroyed their cities, and yet they keep voting Democrat. Are you beginning to see a pattern here? Because this is getting ridiculous. According to the San Francisco Chronicle, from now on, a convicted felon or offender released from custody will be known as a formerly incarcerated person, or a justice-involved person, or just returning resident. Hey, this guy killed his wife and slaughtered his kids with a hunting knife. He's a returning resident. A juvenile delinquent will now be called a young person with justice system involvement, or young person impacted by the juvenile justice system. Hey, this young kid stole his grandma's medication and then stabbed her. He was involved in the juvenile justice system. We don't want people to be forever labeled for the worst things they've ever done. Hey, did you hear the story about that guy who beat an old man to death? Supervisor Matt Haney told the newspaper, "We want them ultimately to become contributing citizens, and referring to them as felons is a scarlet letter that they can never get away from." This is true. And it's also true that we could do way better at rehabilitating people, but I also think we could do way better at punishing people. First of all, I think all prisons should just be solitary confinement, where people are not allowed to leave their cell for the entire span of their sentence. Let 10 years of boredom absolutely drive them insane. I guarantee you that my justice system would have no repeat offenders, because if you did another crime, back in the box, you would lose your mind again. Cruel and unusual, many would say. However, I would like to point out that prison itself is cruel and unusual. What could be more cruel than robbing a human being of their freedom? What could be more unusual than locking him in a cage full of monsters? All punishment is cruel and unusual. Might as well do punishment that works. But we can certainly do a better job of getting people to be productive members of society, and unfortunately our prison system just does not work for that. It turns terrible people and makes them demons. Another issue with this is that prisons are for profit, and as long as prisons are for profit, there will always be a need and a desire to lock up as many people as possible for the stupidest of crimes. The sanitized language, though unlikely to do much to address the crime problem, may result in some convoluted descriptions of crimes in the future. The newspapers noted an individual whose car has been broken into could well be known to police as a person who has come into contact with a returning resident who is also involved with the justice system and who is currently under supervision with a history of substance use. Holy guacamole, that's a lot of letter-olies. The board-approved new language is non-binding, with the district attorney endorsing the measure. Mayor London Breed hasn't yet endorsed the new language. So let's take a look at the comment section. This is Fox, so hopefully we find some sanity in this upside-down world. Now, I don't know if this is a real quote, but it's a good quote nonetheless. Constitution Surfer says, "America will never be destroyed from the outside. If we falter and lose our freedoms, it will be because we were destroyed from the rot within." Abraham Lincoln. "The Democrat Party is the rot within." One Aston one says, "Doublespeak is the classic sign that the Democrats who control these cesspools have gone off the rails and over a cliff and are never coming back." BLU82 says, "Most importantly, the communist is now progressive." Anti-lefty says, "Definitely, they were also criminals." Putin ZZ says, "And brainwashed is now woke." Lord Borg says, "I'm no longer a hitman or contract killer. I'm just a life planner." Mark Mackey says, "That definitely fits with Planned Parenthood." Wiley says, "The liberal city is sanitizing its language, but it is failing to sanitize its streets, which are literally filled with duty." NSWU Go Navy says, "Okay, and from now on, anything dirty, nasty, filthy, and gross will be called San Francisco." We'll leave off this comment. Enough Snuff says, "Liberals protecting convicted felons are not its citizens. Remember Katie Steinel. This can only lead to civil unrest on a scale not seen since the Civil War. It's coming." I remember this story. Katie Steinel was shot by an illegal immigrant. They didn't even let the parents sue the sanctuary city. That is what life is like under Democrats. That is what life is like under the left. If you call yourself a leftist in this day and age, why? Leftism seems to me to always lead down the same road. It's idealism over reality. It's doing good over getting good results. Do what works, not what feels good. But you know what, my friends? That's the story. And that's merely the obvious. Well, that's all for now, folks. What do you think about this story? How do you now feel about these justice-involved people? Be sure to let me know. Do you have any original, quips of your own? Now, this is just a reminder, but you can join me on Patreon or Subscribe Store for as low as $1. There are different tiers. You can choose whichever one you wish. Doing so will get you access to Fight Club, a private Discord server. Remember to share my videos because red-pilled content is being deboosted and deranked. But now it's time for a Q&A session with Mr. Obvious. Walhart is Cute asks, face reveal when? When I get doxxed. As always, thanks for watching. This has been Mr. Obvious, and I'll see you all next time.